Here's what happened. Earlier today, I went and did a grocery shop, and then I got back to the house, and then I got distracted before going into the house. I was checking a video on my phone, and then I thought to myself, "Ooh, this would be nice to just spend some time outside, hang out, get some more outside time in." So I was out there for a few minutes, and then this car came up to the front of the house, and this guy got out of the house and started walking towards me. And it was that walk where you feel like this person's on a mission. So I'm like, oh, shit. What am I about to have to deal with here? Like, I just want to watch this video. I just want to get, into the house, drop off the groceries. So already I'm feeling tense. And then this person comes up to me and he's like, hey, do you know where the old lady who broke her hip lives around here? Like, I'm trying to connect with her. Something like that. And I told him, like, hey, I don't know where she lives, but I'm curious as to like what's going on. So like he starts explaining the context of the situation, and what I can find out is that he wants to fix sidewalks in the neighborhood, which I think great intention. This old lady fell off the sidewalk and broke her hip, which I feel for that. And so he's trying to connect with her, connect with the news station to create a news story so that city council will actually listen to him for what he's been talking about for these repairs of the sidewalks. And so for me, I want to give him that space to like share the context. And I tell him, hey, I hear you. And then he keeps going though and going. And I'm starting to realize he's just wanting to vent, share the frustration, share what's going on. And this is where I have to hold a boundary, because I want to make sure I give him that space. But then I got other stuff I got going on in the day. I can't, I'm thinking this could go for a long time. So after a while, I have to step up there and tell him, hey, I had this other thing I was doing. I got interrupted. I got to go back to this. And so it took me a while. I remember saying a few times, hey, I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. And then I'm like, all right, I got to do this. So then I tell him that. And it's like a light bulb goes off. He's like, oh, realizes what happened. He's like, oh, hey, I hope you have a good rest of the day. I say that back to him, and then he moves on. So for me, that became an honoring of the commitment. But what happened leading up to that point were so many moments where I'd broken a commitment to myself. So the first thing to remember is that you're not alone in this journey of breaking commitments to yourself. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. I want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and be a part of this conversation. I don't take that for granted ever. I know you could be doing a bunch of different things in your day-to-day. So I honor that you're here. It's a moment to mirror for you of that's so awesome that you're doing this and giving yourself this gift of what to remember when the next time you break a commitment to yourself. And what could be coming up for you are a few commitments that you're thinking about. There might be one or two that are hitting you right now that you have broken in the past that you want to change. And how you can also think of commitments are these habits that you're wanting to implement for your life. Because I think of a commitment as something in the present moment for an action that you decide you're going to do in the future. And that could be the start of a new habit of wanting to put the reps in for a commitment of sharing how you truly feel to the people in your life that you're closest with. That's friends, to family, to partner, and even at moments too, to community at large. So that could be one. Or it could be a commitment that you've made to yourself of wanting to take the trash out the night before, so that you don't have to feel rushed in the morning when you're going to work, or dealing with situations with family or partner. So that could be another one. But I want to come back to what I said at the beginning, which is that you are not alone. Another thing that you can remember is that this is part of the journey of breaking commitments to yourself. It's not something that to strive towards for perfection, because nobody is perfect. We've all had these moments of breaking commitments to ourselves, from the people, from myself, from everyone that I've known in person to virtually. I still have not found someone that hasn't had this happen. So this is part of life. That's a moment to take a deep breath. And I know you could feel some tension with this, right? And some resistance of like, shit, like I want this to be perfect. I want to be able to do everything like perfect. That could be where there could be a lot of pain that's coming up for you. So I want you to recognize this, that this is part of life. And it's a moment to take a deep inhale through the nose and release out through the mouth. And I see you, especially if you're someone that has those big goals and you're wanting to achieve big things in your life and move towards who it is you want to become and the vision you have for your life. I see you. I get it. But when we can accept this as a truth, it then becomes a lot easier to continue to show up and put those reps in, to be consistent with the commitments we make to ourselves. Because that's what it is. It's focusing on consistency, not perfection. And when you can focus on consistency and have the majority of the time honoring the commitments you made to yourself, that makes it a lot easier to move towards who it is you want to become. And then also when it comes back to burnout, it makes it a lot easier to make burnout extinct. Because when you honor commitments to yourself for the majority of the time, that is building trust with your body. Because what you're thinking, what you are saying, you are then doing. That creates an alignment with your body. And this is really important to connect to this. So I want to connect to this. I want to then share with you the experience in the body that you may be feeling so you can understand you're not alone in this, and then how to move through that energy so it can become easier to build momentum towards honoring commitments to yourself. So that's the process we'll go on. I'll also give you some time to reflect throughout. But when it comes to burnout, that alignment is so important. I think one of the biggest game changers for me in my journey of making burnout extinct and keeping it there in my life, even though there are those moments where like I'll, with seasons of life move towards hitting burnout, but I'll recognize my signals and be able to make the change fast before I hit burnout. So the game changer was actually honoring commitments that I made to myself, where I said I was going to do something, I follow through on it. What that built was trust with my body. And that trust then allowed my body to be able to express more freely the signals of letting me know when I'm getting really tired and that fatigue is building and I am having more intense stress, or the anxiety is building up, or the overwhelm is building up, and those bubbles are bubbling up. And I have to make a change in my behavior in order to release that energy out, which we'll get to for like how to release that energy out more. But first, it's recognizing that this is, by honoring commitments, this is how you build trust. By breaking commitments to yourself, you are creating distrust with the body. It's these small things that compound over time. Like, it doesn't happen overnight, but you may have been in a habit of breaking commitments to yourself. So that could be a situation that you're in, is you've broken so many commitments to yourself that you feel this constant, anxiety that can build in the body, this constant like, when's the shoe going to drop could be another feeling for you. But you could have that pressure and that tension building, and be in this like stress response. So if you're in that all the time, then of course for the body, it's going to move you towards hitting burnout, because you're feeling that constant exhaustion that can then lead into the first red flag of burnout, which is chronic exhaustion. So that's what could be happening. And that could be your situation right now, is that you have just been constantly feeling like you're in this stuck rut of breaking commitments to yourself. The thing to remember, what I want to remind you of, is that you're capable of making a change here. You're capable of creating this new habit of honoring commitments to yourself. So this is where we get into what's going on with the body when you break a commitment to yourself. So what happens is that can create distrust. Then that can create this confusion with the body like the body. How you can think about it is that relationship you have with your body, of the body might then get into this fear, that bubbles up because it's creating uncertainty for the body, uncertainty of what's going to happen in the future. Because it doesn't then know, are you going to honor these commitments that you're saying to yourself? So that can cause anxiety to bubble up, pressure to build in your body, and this tension to build in your body. And that's where you can then feel like this is your permanent state, right? Like you're going through your day to day and you just think like this is what normal is. Well, what I want to tell you is that this does not have to be your permanent reality. It is temporary for the charge that happens when you break a commitment to yourself, if you were able to move that energy through, right? And that's really important, is to be able to close the loop, because what's happening is these open loops are being created when you break the commitments to yourself. So a way you can close those loops to make it easier to show up and put the reps in to get back and honor a commitment that you made is to be able to shake it out is one way. So literally shaking out your hands, shake out your body. You can do like a dance. That is literally then moving the stuck energy, and that can move it out. Another one could be screaming is another one that I think about. So I used to use a pillow for this because I was uncomfortable like screaming at first. I didn't know that that was something you could just do. I thought that was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, does anyone else do this? What I want to tell you is that it's natural, and it's a way that you can release energy out. And it's super helpful. I mean, we see it in the movies. Like, you see the movies where people are like, ah, but I think about it as a man for the messaging. Like, I didn't want to make people scared. So I would have to start with the pillow and just scream in the pillow to get comfortable with it for myself. So that could be another way to move the energy. Working out is a great one. Like, that's where you could actually kind of stack these habits of like, okay, you're going to remove the energy. Well, I'm going to work out by going out for a walk. It's a way I can release it out, or getting some push-ups in. But what you have to remember is you got to get the energy out. Like, whenever you break a commitment, you're going to build energy and figure out the way to release it for yourself. What then can come through are these emotions that come up, which is the guilt of feeling embarrassed, like you did something wrong, you broke this commitment to yourself. That is where you can go down the tornado thoughts, where it is the negative beating yourself up internally, and go down that spiral. And then what can also happen in those moments is, one, let me get to the tornado of thoughts, right? Let's address that. Okay, so you're going down those thoughts. This is where you got to come back to this is part of the journey. Go back to remembering that this is part of the journey. It happens. Nobody is perfect. Like, you made a mistake, but within it, there's a lesson from the emotions, from the guilt, from the shame you could even be feeling of thinking like that shame that's building up. There's something there. So what is that lesson? And what is that insight that you can get? And that's where you can come back to the body. So once you move the energy out, you can reconnect through like a body scan. So you can actually go and notice where you're noticing pressure or tension in the body. It could be in the chest, it could be in the stomach and the legs, but just bring your awareness back. And a way you can start that is by actually pointing at things in the room, so that, I'm looking right around here. So I see a mirror, computer, books. So I'm coming back into the present moment. Then I can come back to my body and be like, okay, let me notice my hands and my fingers moving. Let me now notice my shoulders. And then now I can really lean in to those feelings of shame and the guilt, and what's coming through for the lesson to be learned in the mistake. And what that might be is, for, let's say, the commitment that you had made of taking the trash out the night before, is thinking, okay, do I have a way to remind myself that I got to take the trash out? Maybe it's writing it that morning to remind myself in my journal. Maybe it's putting a reminder on my phone. But what is the thing that I can do to make it easier to honor this commitment moving forward? And then let go of the mistake. Give yourself grace to remember that this is part of the journey, and that you can show up and you can reset for a new day. Tomorrow is a new day to reset. Every other hour is a new day to reset. You can make that change and be able to get out of this rut. You're, as a human being, capable of this. You got to think about it. Even thinking of the odds of being born, what's shown is it's 1 in 400 trillion. You have the capabilities to be able to make a shift in your behavior, and to be able to then honor the commitments to yourself. So now that you've moved the energy through, you've gotten the lesson, Now it's getting to the commitment itself. Because if you've been breaking commitments to yourself, there's two things I want to go into for paths. The first one is the commitment too big? Or how is it worded for yourself? So you may have a commitment of every time I want to share how I truly feel. And I want to do it right in that moment, right when I'm in the conversation at the beginning. I want to share what's going on and how I'm feeling with my friends, my partner, my family, and I want to share it all. I want to just go all out. It's the like all or nothing approach. All out, or all in, or all out. But if you're constantly breaking that commitment, then what change could you make to the actual commitment? Maybe one thing would be to start to share how you felt yesterday to your partner or your friends. Maybe instead of saying, hey, I've had for years, I've been feeling this certain type of way. Maybe you just start small and say to them, hey, yesterday, like I didn't really appreciate what you said. And this is why, and this is how it affected me. Or you could say, hey, for a commitment of working out, you may have made the commitment of, I want to work out for the next 90 days in a row. Well, what if you've been doing that commitment and you've been on and off track, why don't you start with, I'm going to commit to working out for at least 5 minutes each day. Why not start there? Because maybe in the 90 minutes previously, you were like, I'm going to do this hour-long workout. I got 2 hours. But like, if you hadn't been consistently working out, that's going to be a big jump for the body. And what happens is when you can create these big commitments and they're not being honored, there can be a disconnect with the body because it's such a big jump for the body that can create a high level of uncertainty, and the body wants to keep you safe. So what can happen is it can then create this fear response, that this fear that bubbles up with the stress response, and then intense resistance from the body. And that's might be where you just have those feelings of like, ugh, I gotta go work out again. Maybe I'll push it off for another day. Like maybe I'll get to it a little bit later on in the week, or I'll rebound. Like I got the weekend coming up, I'll rebound on the weekend. Like that's where you can get the ugh feeling that comes up. And that's because of that resistance that can happen because it's such a big jump. So when you can start small, you can then build a momentum, and you can do it in a way for the wording for yourself for a commitment where it's the at least. I really like that phrase of at least, because it doesn't mean you still can't push it for like the hour workout. And then for sharing your true feelings, it doesn't mean you can't still share your true feelings, but at least you're sharing a certain level with people in your life. But you can go deeper if you like, but at least the commitment is small. So then you honor that commitment. And by honoring it for that habit that you can check off, or the commitment you can check off, that creates trust within, or that starts to build the trust within the body. Or it rebuilds the trust if it's been lost. So that builds more and more and strengthens. It's like the highway that's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So then it becomes easier and easier for the body to trust you, is how you can think about it for that relationship. So then you're able to create, when it comes to the commitments, that could be where you then create these bigger commitments. And it feels like then you are moving with the momentum more and more towards who it is you want to become. You're noticing changes in your life. And then that's where your baseline continues to rise up, and where you are then able to make it easier for you to notice when you're moving towards hitting burnout for those signals from the body, because it's communicating very well with you. And then you're able to make the changes in the behavior and be able to move towards making burnout extinct, and having those habits, those burnout proof habits, to be able to support you in that journey. And so that's where it becomes this momentum cycle of moving forward. The other thing to remember is when it comes to your day-to-day life, that the reason you could also be breaking these habits that could be coming up for you is because your day-to-day is very boring. That could be happening. Like, does it feel like you're kind of just like doing the same thing? day in and day out, or like you have your routine that you're doing, but it's just feeling really boring or blah, or not really. There's the liveliness is lost, and you're just going through the motions. Because what happens is then you could be breaking the commitments in order to create excitement and variety and uncertainty, right? With uncertainty, yes, it can be scary, but also it can be exciting because you don't know what's going to happen. I think about that with watching football. Like, I really like watching football because I don't know. Like, I hope the Ravens win the game, but I don't know if they're going to, like, because you can't predict that because it just happens. Like, that's where that variety happens. So that is a moment to reflect on your day of, are there areas where you can add more variety in your day so that it can become easier to honor these commitments that you make to yourself. And that could be going and taking a trip. That could be going and I think about that, doing a new experience, joining a club for like a pickleball or a running club, or what other anything else that you feel like an urge to want to do. This would be then the sign for you of saying, okay, if I've been breaking these commitments, like, this could actually help me. And so it's to try it out. And what I want to come back to is that there is no one right way, but there is a right way for you. And that's what's really important to remember, is that you're testing and trying these different things for what it is to help you to honor your commitments. So to recap it for you, what to remember. First is that you are not alone in this journey. So many of us have broken those commitments to ourselves. So it's to give yourself grace, to realize that this is not going to be your permanent reality, and that you can show up and reset and put the reps in for honoring those commitments that you made to yourself. The other thing is then remembering to move the charge that you will feel after breaking a commitment to yourself. There is going to be a pressure and a tension that builds in. That's where the emotions of guilt and shame can come up. Move that energy through, and then notice what is the lesson to be learned in the mistake that happened, and then be able to let go of those mistakes and give yourself grace to then show up and reset and put the reps in. And then for the commitment itself, is the commitment too big right now? Do you need to do the at least commitment? Meaning at least where you can honor it, but you can still push. And then reminding yourself of, do you have enough variety in the day? So that it can become easier to honor these commitments. Because that could be a reason too that you're breaking these commitments, is to create uncertainty in your day-to-day and make it more exciting. And so what I want to tell you is, if you haven't heard it yet, I believe in you. You're capable as a human being to make this happen. You have those capabilities within you. You got this.